Have you ever felt hijacked by your own emotions? One careless word ruins your day. One message left unseen keeps you awake at night. One moment of anger makes you say things you can never take back. And in those moments, you're not in control. Your emotions are. But what if I told you that emotional pain is not caused by what happens to you, but by how untrained your mind is to face it? For over 2,000 years, Stoic philosophers developed mental disciplines so powerful that they could face betrayal, humiliation, loss, even death, with calm, unshakable composure, not because they felt less, but because they mastered how to feel. Hello, everyone. In this episode of Stoic Hypnosis, you'll discover 10 Stoic habits that will help you control your emotions and become emotionally untouchable. Stay with me, because once you learn to master your emotions, no one will ever have power over you again. Now, let's get started. Habit 1. The sacred pause. Your greatest emotional power lies in a moment most people waste. The pause, when anger rises, when fear tightens your chest, when words tempt you to react instantly. Pause. The Stoics understood that emotions are impulses, not commands. The space between stimulus and response is where your freedom lives. Most people react. The Stoic observes. In that brief silence, you asked, "Is this within my control? Will reacting improve this situation, or only expose my lack of control?" Emotions lose their dominance when they are not immediately obeyed. A delayed reaction is often a wiser one. What felt urgent seconds ago becomes manageable, even insignificant. Practice this daily. Pause before replying to messages. Pause before raising your voice. Pause before making decisions in emotional states. That single moment of stillness transforms you from a prisoner of emotion into its master. And mastery begins with silence. Habit 2. Reframe. Events are neutral. Your interpretation gives them emotional power. A harsh comment becomes an insult only when you accept it as one. A failure becomes humiliation only when you label it so. The Stoics trained themselves to see events not as good or bad, but as information and opportunity. Instead of saying, "This is terrible," they asked, "How can this strengthen me?" Rejection becomes redirection. Criticism becomes feedback. Delays become training in patience. Every emotional wound softens when you change the story you tell yourself about it. Your mind is not just a receiver of reality, it is its interpreter. When you master reframing, you stop being emotionally cornered by circumstances. What once triggered anger now invites reflection. What once caused despair now builds resilience. You cannot control what happens, but you can always control what it means. And in that meaning, you reclaim your emotional power. Habit 3. Lower your expectations of others. Much of your emotional pain comes from silent expectations. You expect loyalty from the inconsistent, understanding from the unaware, fairness from the selfish. And when reality fails to meet these unspoken standards, you feel hurt, angry, or betrayed. The Stoics avoided this trap by aligning expectations with human nature. People can be careless, emotional, self-interested, and flawed, just like you. When you accept this truth, disappointment loses its sting. This is not pessimism, it is emotional realism. When someone behaves poorly, instead of reacting with shock or outrage, the Stoic thinks, "This is within the range of human behavior." Calm replaces anger. Clarity replaces hurt. By expecting less from others, you become less emotionally dependent on their behavior. Gratitude replaces entitlement. Peace replaces resentment. You stop being controlled by how people should act and remain steady in how you choose to respond. Before we continue, which of these habits resonates with you the most right now? Pausing before reacting, reframing events, or lowering expectations of others. Take a moment to reflect, then share your answer in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today, and if this video is helping you gain greater control over your emotions, subscribe to Stoic Hypnosis to support the channel and stay connected with deeper Stoic wisdom and psychological mastery. Now, let's continue. Habit 4. Separate facts from feelings. Most emotional suffering begins with a simple confusion. You mistake your feelings for facts. You feel disrespected, so you believe you were disrespected. You feel rejected, so you conclude you are unwanted. You feel anxious, so you assume something is wrong. But feelings are signals, not truths. The Stoics trained themselves to strip every situation down to raw facts. Not, they humiliated me, but they spoke words. Not, this is a disaster, but this did not go as planned. When you remove dramatic interpretations, emotional intensity weakens. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable, even ordinary. Ask yourself in difficult moments, what actually happened, without my story about it? This habit creates emotional distance, and in that distance, clarity emerges. You stop reacting to imagined threats and start responding to reality. Calm is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of clarity. Habit 5. Train yourself with voluntary discomfort. An untrained mind demands comfort. A disciplined mind is comfortable without it. The Stoics deliberately practice discomfort, cold baths, simple meals, modest living, not to suffer, but to build emotional independence. When you regularly step outside comfort, you weaken fear and strengthen resilience. Try small acts of voluntary discomfort. Skip a luxury. Embrace silence instead of distraction. Take a cold shower. Sit with boredom without reaching for your phone. Each act sends a powerful message to your mind. I am not controlled by comfort. I can endure. Emotional overreactions often come from a low tolerance for discomfort, rejection, inconvenience, uncertainty. But when you train yourself to endure physical and mental unease, emotional turbulence loses its power over you. You become steadier, harder to provoke, harder to shake, because a mind that can endure discomfort does not panic in adversity. It adapts and remains composed. Habit 6. Master your inner dialogue. The most influential voice in your life is the one in your head. If that voice is fearful, critical, or dramatic, your emotions will follow. But if it is calm, rational, and disciplined, your emotional world transforms. The Stoics practice constant inner dialogue, correcting irrational thoughts and replacing them with grounded, truthful ones. When your mind says, "This is unbearable," you respond, "It is uncomfortable, but I can handle it." When it says, "This is a disaster," you answer, "This is a challenge, and I will deal with it." You become both the observer and the guide of your own mind. Left unchecked, your thoughts exaggerate threats and intensify emotions. But when trained, your inner voice becomes a stabilizing force, steady, logical, and reassuring. You may not control the first emotional reaction, but you always control the conversation that follows. And that conversation determines whether you spiral or stand firm. Habit 7. Remember how little truly matters. Most emotional reactions come from treating small things as if they were life-defining. A rude comment, a delayed reply, a minor mistake. In the moment, they feel enormous. But the Stoics practiced a powerful mental shift. Zooming out, they would ask, will this matter in a week, a year, at the end of my life? Most of the time, the answer is no. By placing events in the vast context of time, ego shrinks and emotions settle. What once felt urgent becomes trivial. What once felt painful becomes forgettable. This is the Stoic art of perspective. From the height of time and space, most human dramas dissolve into insignificance. When you remember how little truly matters, you stop wasting emotional energy on fleeting disturbances. You become calmer, lighter, harder to provoke, because you no longer treat temporary moments as permanent threats. Habit 8. Choose response over revenge. The untrained mind seeks revenge. The disciplined mind seeks control. When hurt, ignored, or disrespected, the instinct is to retaliate, to say something sharper, act colder, or prove your worth. But the Stoics saw revenge as surrender, not strength. If someone can provoke you into reaction, they control you. True emotional power is the ability to respond with intention, or not respond at all. Silence can be strength. Composure can be dominance. Walking away can be victory. By refusing to mirror negativity, you break the cycle of emotional escalation. You protect your peace instead of feeding your pride. Ask yourself, will this reaction improve my character or just satisfy my ego? Choosing dignity over revenge does not make you weak. It makes you sovereign over your emotions. And a person who cannot be provoked cannot be controlled. Habit 9. Focus on your role, not the outcome. Emotional turmoil often comes from obsessing over results, whether people approve, whether plans succeed, whether life unfolds as expected. The Stoics redirected their focus to one thing, their role. Your role is to act with wisdom, discipline, courage, and fairness. The outcome is never fully yours. You can prepare perfectly and still fail. You can act with integrity and still be criticized. When your emotional state depends on outcomes, your peace becomes fragile. But when your satisfaction comes from fulfilling your role well, you remain stable regardless of results. Did you act with integrity, with effort, with self-control? Then you have already succeeded in the only way that truly matters. By anchoring your emotions to your actions rather than outcomes, you gain consistency and calm. You stop riding the emotional roller coaster of success and failure and begin standing on solid ground. Habit 10. Practice. Emotional detachment. Through observation. The Stoics trained themselves to observe emotions rather than become them. Instead of saying, I am angry, they would think, I am experiencing anger. This subtle shift creates distance between you and the emotion. You are no longer the storm. You are the sky watching it pass. Emotions rise, peak, and fade when they are observed without resistance or indulgence. But when you identify with them, they intensify and linger. In moments of emotional intensity, step back internally. Notice your breathing. Observe your thoughts. Label the emotion calmly. Anger, fear, jealousy, anxiety. No judgment, just awareness. This transforms emotion from a commanding force into a passing sensation. You realize something powerful. Emotions happen within you, but they are not you. And once you stop identifying with every feeling, emotional invincibility is no longer an idea. It becomes your lived experience. Conclusion. You have just explored 10 Stoic habits, 10 quiet disciplines that transform emotional chaos into inner command. The world around you will remain unpredictable. People will still disappoint you. Situations will still test your patience, your pride, and your peace. But emotional invincibility is not about controlling the world. It is about mastering your response to it. The Stoics were not emotionless. They were self-governed. And that is the difference between being controlled by life and standing firm within it. Every pause, every reframed thought, every moment of restraint strengthens your emotional armor. Over time, what once triggered you will barely move you. What once overwhelmed you will become your training. Emotional mastery is not a single breakthrough. It is a daily practice. And with each day you practice, you become calmer, clearer, and harder to shake, not distant, not cold, but composed, aware, and truly free. The deeper lesson is this: your emotions are powerful, but they are not your master unless you allow them to be. Begin today with one simple practice. Pause before reacting, observe your emotions without judgment, and choose your response with intention. Start with one situation, one conversation, one trigger. Mastery is built in moments, not in theory. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to Stoic Hypnosis to support the channel and help us continue creating deep, powerful content that strengthens your mind and sharpens your character. And now, carry this calm strength into your life. Thank you for taking the time to watch until the end of the video. See you in the next videos.